Hi, everyone. My name is Jude Abaga. I'm a musician. I'm also a learning entrepreneur. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm going to hold my phone because I can't remember everything that I want to talk about. And I hope that that's all right with you guys. I want to congratulate the TEDx Mitama team. You guys have no idea how organized and brilliant these guys are. And they're very young, too. You know, I didn't know there were young people that were doing big things like myself, fellow teenagers. Why are you guys laughing? Um, but another thing that struck me out, and this has nothing to do with my talk, but I think we should say this all the time when we see it, that the majority of the team were young women who are doing amazing jobs. And as a proud feminist, I think it's just indicative of why women have to take a leadership role in our society and our community. You know, I'm going to share an idea with you guys. I'm a musician, so a lot of my references are going to be from music. And one of them is a rapper who is no longer with us. His name was Tupac Shakur. Mommy, I saw you shaking your head. Tupac Shakur said, "I may not change the world, but I may spark the idea that will change the world." And so I have a thought. It's not yet fully formulated, but I'm going to share it with you guys. And maybe, who knows, someone here will finish it for me. But I'm going to try. And my talk, if the clicker just works, is called On Building Up. Now, it says there that the most amazing TEDx talk of all time. Since it's there, it must be true. So, by this guy. Okay, so anyway, there's a story in the Bible, and it's called the story of the Tower of Babylon, and it's a curious story. Here's what happened. The people of earth came together, and they said to themselves, "Hey, we want to go see God." And they started building. Now, here's what's interesting about this story. The story says that God looked from heaven and saw the people building. And God said, now, if you understand how the world works, atmosphere, oxygen tanks, all these things, you understand that at that time there was no oxygen tank. But the story says that God said, these people are one. And if they've decided as one to do anything, they will get it done. The story then goes to say that God then separated the people by language. Now, I want to postulate a formula to you guys. The formula is this: when there's potential and you include separation, what will happen is that the people will no longer be able to accomplish what they've set out to do. The formula is there's potential, there are people, there's potential, but when I separate the people, they will no longer be able to accomplish what they set out to do. I visited a beautiful place this year. I'm a single man in my late teens, I told you guys. But I'm actively looking for my wife wherever I go. And I visited a beautiful place early this year called Cape Praia in Cape Verde. It's a small island, very beautiful. I was walking down the road and I saw her, the woman I'd been dreaming about my whole life. And when she turned and she looked at me, I knew that she had also been dreaming about me too. Listen, you guys are laughing and this is sad. You're going to feel bad because the story ends terribly. We saw each other and I wanted to say, I've been waiting for you all this time. And just tell her, hey, can I meet your parents? But guess what happened? We couldn't communicate. Why? Because people in Cape Verde, and by direct flight, it wouldn't take 3 hours from here. They speak Portuguese. And I only know one word in Portuguese, obrigada. Obrigado for men, obrigada, which is thank you. Again, there was potential, but we were separated by language, and I'm still single. But I'll give another example, and it's a darker example. In 1712, myth has it. Now, there's no proof that this really happened. Historians argue over it. But there's a guy called Willie Lynch who wrote a letter. And the purpose of the letter was to train slave owners on how to control their slaves. So here's the scenario. Slaves were getting stronger, they were getting bigger, and the people said, we're afraid these guys are starting to get together. What should we do so that they don't reach their potential and overthrow us, the slave owners? And he came up with a formula. He said, take simple differences and make them bigger. After receiving this indoctrination, the slaves will become self-generating for hundreds of years, meaning that the slave himself and herself will pass down slavery just by multiplying our differences. Old versus young, light skin versus dark skin, male versus female. It's crazy. What does this have to do with music, ladies and gentlemen? African music right now is at its most vibrant. Do you guys recognize some of the faces on stage? That young man, the closest one to me, Davido, he just received a platinum plaque for sales this year. Amazing. It's never been done. The lady Yemi Alade, she tours around the world. She sold out a venue in France. Never been done. That young man in the middle, Wizkid, I can't say enough about him. Tiwa Savage signed to Roc Nation, 10 years of dominance in pop music. Burna Boy, amazing artist. Casper Nyovest from South Africa performed to 68,000 people that he sold out by himself last year. Sauti Sol from Kenya, Sarkodie from Ghana, Diamond Platinums from Tanzania. African music is doing big things around the world. It's amazing what's happening. But yet, when you do the numbers, you see, PW says that in 2021, the size of Nigeria's entertainment industry will be $73 million. By comparison, the size of the music industry in America, not the entertainment business, so not movies, not comedy, not TV, none of that, just music, in 2016 was $15 billion. Now, there's another graphic there. If every American and every Nigerian decided to live in the same country, that would be the population split. Nigerians would be in purple, Americans would be in blue, which means that 2 out of every 5 people, roughly, would be Nigerian. So when you look at that, you can see that with all our vibrance, we are grossly underperforming. Let me throw a different number out at you. The size of our economy, roughly $400 billion. The music business alone in America, 2 years ago, $15 billion. Something is wrong. Now, I'm going to talk. Do you guys know that guy at the top, Drake? How many people know who Drake is? Okay, I can see my young people, my teenagers were in the building. Okay, I'm going to walk through this quickly. I started to do what is happening here? So Drake was signed by a guy called Jazz Prince, the guy closest to him. And that guy introduced him to a guy called Cortez Bryant, who's Lil Wayne's manager, who signed Nicki Minaj, who are all signed to Birdman, good. And they're all together signed to a company called Republic Records, under which Post Malone, Ariana Grande, and The Weeknd are also signed. And all of these guys together are signed to a company called Universal Records. Now, Universal Records, I want to give you some details because I wanted to find out how big is this company. So I went and I Googled on Wikipedia and I said, how many artists that their names start with the letter A are there on Universal Records? And I counted 62. I wanted to put it on the slide, but I couldn't put 62 names on the slide. But I felt that isn't too bad. So artists with the letter A, something about the Wikipedia page told me maybe they're just giving me popular artists. So then I changed my focus. I said, how many record labels that begin with the letter A are there under Universal Music? And there were 232 record labels under Universal Music. Universal Music Group controls 35% of the American music industry. The question is, how do we, because when these guys cough, the world of entertainment catches a cold. How do we, with all our vibrance, all our energy, all our population, how do we get from being a sliver to doing what these guys are doing? Is it that we don't have the connections? Is it that people aren't working together? What is wrong? What is happening? And so I started to do the numbers. Now, my favorite artist in terms of in the pop sphere is Wizkid. And I said, okay, now, Wizkid, I want to see the calculations. If we have those same things. Wizkid was discovered by a girl called Osage. She's over there in the corner. And she was introduced by Osage to Banky W, who also signed an artist called Scales. Now, when Scales left EME Records, he met up with a guy called Timaya, who had a young artist called Patoranking. Do you guys know these names I'm talking about? And they made music together. Wizkid went on to sign somebody called Mr. Easy. You guys know who that is? I'm not losing people. But not just that, part of Wizkid's team, there's a guy called Beats by Sars, who's an amazing producer. Beats by Sars was part of a company called Edge Records. Edge Records was led by a producer called ID Kabasa. ID Kabasa was directly influential in the careers, and they were all part of Edge Records, of Nice, you guys remember Nice, of Olamide, and of Reminisce. I haven't even done a deep dive, and there's connections everywhere. Do you know what? I want to do it. I'm looking down. I'm looking from Wizkid down. Let's look from Wizkid up. Wizkid was signed by Banky W. But before he was signed by Banky W, he worked at a studio of a producer who's no longer with us. His name is OJB Jezreel. That's where Wizkid started his journey. OJB Jezreel is famous for working on one of the most legendary artists called Two-Face Idibia. Two-Face Idibia was signed by a man regarded to be the godfather of African music, Keke D1, who now has a radio station called Rainbow FM after years in media. Two-Face's manager, Efe Omorigbe, is now legally the president of an organization called COSON, which is the collection rights organization for artists in Nigeria. When I go the other way through Banky, I see LD The Don. LD The Don is very important. He brought Banky to Nigeria. That's what the link is there. LD was the guy that first discovered putting Nigerian music on CDs through the Alaba Pirates. And that became the Alaba music scene. But recently, LD has done something called, oh man, I'm running out of time, has done something called Play Data. Play Data is the only way in Nigeria that you can find how music performs on radio. Right. So, LD The Don, instrumental through Tribesmen to Dr. Sid to Don Jazzy and D'banj. D'banj has the Cream platform. Don Jazzy is the CEO of the record where Tiwa Savage. It's one industry. The connections are everywhere. We're building. We're connecting. What is the problem? Listen, I'll go further to tell you that we've been ahead of the curve so many times. I will just use one example. I have 6 there, but one of them is that Nigerian artists were the first artists to record music digitally. Now you travel around the world, you see people recording from their laptops. We didn't even have analog studios. So we went to Computer Village in Lagos and we bought Fruity Loops for 200 Naira. We went home, we learned it, and we recorded our music and put it online. If you go online and you Google something called the 360 deal, they will tell you that it was invented in 2007 by some white guy for rocking some rock band. The problem is, I signed the 360 deal in 2006 to a company called Chocolate City. We don't get any of the credit, but we've been innovating for days. But here I think what the challenge is. The challenge is that we grow horizontally and not vertically. What does this mean? It means that no sooner has success started to happen than every artist says, I no longer want to work with you. I want to go and be on my own. What happens when this happens? First of all, the guys that had invested in the artists, they get tired and they leave. And they take all the investment, all the studios, all the know-how, and they leave the business. LD The Don, Banky W, Keke, all these guys, they're no longer in the record business. All our pedigree, all our knowledge over the last 15 years, they are no longer in the music business. We are learning things that have been done before again for the first time, even though it just happened. There's so much here I want to go and talk into, but let me talk about what happens when we don't grow vertically. When we don't grow vertically, what happens is that the might, the negotiating power that for an African artist to go to YouTube and say, I come from a company that represents this amount of catalog, so you must treat me this way. Next week, or I think the week after, you guys are going to see us at the House of Assembly protesting our right to get the turn in the telecoms split. And we don't even have the power to lobby. We're all alone. Every artist in Nigeria we're many, but we are all alone. And unfortunately, as we get older, someone will have a kidney problem or something. There's no pensions, no health care, no job security, nothing. But here's an idea. And this is the what now moment. Remember I told you, it's not fully formed. What if we work together? What if everyone I showed you, and if I'd done a deeper dive, I've done the connections for the whole industry and show you how we're all connected. What if we all worked together and we wielded the might as a power of one? How powerful would the African music industry be? I'm holding here a phone that's made by Apple. And Apple's direct competition would be who? Android, right? Or Samsung, yes, Android. Android is driven by Google. For me to do this, I had to get most of my images from where? And I did a presentation on a software created by what company? Who can guess? Microsoft. These are companies that employ thousands of people, that wield the might of the heavens, that cough and the world catches a cold. And here we are, with all the energy, all the know-how, all the experience, all the innovation, but refusing to work together. What if I wasn't just talking about music? And this is to the co-teenagers out here. What if we, going forward, refuse to be separated anymore? What if we say to each other, we are going to work as one? What if the social media guy goes and listens to the herdsman and hears what is really troubling him? What if the Christians in this place really listen to what our Muslims, brothers and sisters, have been telling us about what's been happening in Borno? For the most part, we didn't care. It's their problem. They will deal with it. What if we became one and we worked as one? My presentation maybe had nothing to do with music. I don't know. You guys help me finish it. Thank you. My name is Emma Ibadan.